Thank you once again for making us part of your morning. Time now to bring you some updates in the news. And first, President John Mahama delivered a blunt message at the United Nations. Crimes against Palestinians must stop. He urged world leaders to speak plainly on the Gaza crisis. His comments come just hours after the minority urged the government to tread cautiously on the issue. More in the following report.
Addressing world leaders in New York, President John Dramani Mahama criticized attempts to soften the reality of the Gaza crisis, stressing Ghana's support for a two-state solution.
Ghana recognized the state of Palestine in 1988 and supported a two-state solution to the conflict since then. And I say, contrary to the claims of some, a two-state solution would not be a reward for Hamas. It would rather be a reprieve for the hundreds of thousands of innocent women and children and people who are facing collective punishment and forced starvation for no reason other than the fact that they are Palestinian. For nearly 2 years and for the fear of reprisals, we here in this General Assembly have been playing hide and seek with language to find the right words to help us avoid or excuse what we all know is taking place in Gaza. But here's the thing, it doesn't matter what you call it. If it looks like a duck, it swims like a duck, and quacks like a duck, well, then it must be a duck. The crimes in Gaza must stop. The crimes in Gaza must stop.
The president also challenged the United Nations relevance, calling its chapter outdated and demanding reforms to reflect today's realities.
The UN founding charter is outdated when it comes to representation in this August Assembly. The most powerful post-World War II nations are still being rewarded with an almost totalitarian guardianship over the rest of the world. And yet, the first sentence in Chapter 2, Article 1 of the UN Charter declares that the organization is based on the principle of sovereign equality of all its members. If this were true, and was the case, a continent as large as Africa, with its numerous UN member states, would have at least one permanent seat on the Security Council.
The president specifically called for a permanent Security Council seat for Africa, tying the continent's rightful representation to broader UN reforms.
That veto power should not be restricted to only 5 nations, nor should it be absolute. There must be a mechanism in this House for the General Assembly to challenge a veto. No single nation should be able to exercise an absolute veto to serve its own interests in a dispute. And we African leaders are still making the same simple request for a permanent seat on the Security Council with the power of a veto.
He further celebrated Ghana's economic gains, cutting inflation by more than half and stabilizing the cedi, but stressed that Africa's future extends far beyond economics.
Our currency, the Ghana cedi, was rapidly depreciating, faced with rising inflation, a huge debt burden, and low morale amongst our citizens. My new administration settled down quickly and embarked on an ambitious program of comprehensive transformation designed to restructure Ghana's economic foundation and enhance our competitive standing globally. We refer to this process of recalibration as our reset agenda. In just 8 months, we have achieved significant reduction in inflation from 23.8% in December 2024 to 11.5% in August 2025. Restoring price stability for our citizens.
The Ghana Great Company has raised alarm over growing threats posed by illegal mining activities to the country's power transmission network. According to the company, illegal miners are encroaching on transmission corridors, erecting pits dangerously close to high voltage towers, and in some cases directly targeting Gridco staff with gunfire. Acting Deputy CEO in charge of engineering and operations at Gridco, Frank Otre, warns that the situation not only endangers the lives of workers, but also puts the national grid at serious risk. James Aveji has more.
The Energy Committee, led by Chairman Emmanuel Bejira and Ranking Member Kwame Abuaje, began the first day of their 3-day monitoring visit to energy sector agencies with stops at GRIDCO, the Energy Commission, and PURC here in Accra. At GRIDCO, officials highlighted ongoing expansion projects, including a $353 million 161 kV transmission line aimed at improving power supply in the Volta and Uti regions. They, however, said illegal mining activities are threatening their transmission towers in some parts of the country.
The right-of-way clearing becomes lucrative to galamseyers, and in a number of areas, our people go and see that overnight people come and do their galamseying activities very close to our towers. Unfortunately, there are some areas that even when our maintenance teams are going, they get shot at, and some of them have had to run away.
Galamsey is not only affecting Ghana Water Company, neither is it only affecting national security, it's affecting GRIDCO as well, the transmission line. Very soon you go there and you'll be shocked with the power that is in, and you'll be bent down. So we want to caution Ghanaians, especially Galamseyers, to know that you are risking your life.
At the Energy Commission Executive Secretary, Eunice Brechu called for tax incentives for local renewable energy companies, as she said they are working on a target to add 63 megawatts of power to the national energy mix.
There's one, SPS was around, they weren't able to do much, they're just hanging around. Another entity, TradeWorks, has really, he's built his factory, he's looking at bringing in equipment, and he wants to partner with us, and he sees that perhaps even some collaboration with governments where they're incentivized to produce in large numbers will help to push that agenda. I mean, we are talking about local content and local participation. We really need to support our local industries to really be able to pick up the renewable energy agenda for the country.
At the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, Executive Secretary Shafiq Suleiman said they are advocating for a new law to protect water bodies from destruction by illegal mining.
We will be glad if the Parliament can consider a Clean Drinking Water Act or regulatory framework with PURC ready to take up the mantle. In fact, we've even developed internally an existing framework. We are only waiting for the Ministry of Works, Housing and Water Resources to call for it and possibly pass it through Parliament for it to become a law so that we can help implement it.
On the issue of utility tariff increase for ECG and Ghana Water, PURC said regional consultations are ongoing before a final decision. The committee chairman and ranking member, however, stressed that any approval must be preceded by ECG reducing its losses.
I mean, we are the representative of the people. We cannot sit down and our people just to come and bundle any rate to us. We need to know what exactly it entails, and that if we are going to be in the same alignment or the same price range with our neighbors, that's fine. If not, then what is the justification for the new tariff?
The waste. Efficiency will bring something that will help all of us. Okay, they should focus on efficiency. And I know if they focus on efficiency, they won't be demanding increment all the time.
The committee will continue with day 2 of its monitoring visit, where's the Electricity Company of Ghana, the Volta River Authority, and then later move to the Eastern region. For JoyNews, I am James Savage.
Health facilities in the Ashanti region, the Kokode-Nwamase Teaching Hospital and the Kumasi South Hospital are heightening calls for their urgent retooling to facilitate quality healthcare delivery. Health officers grapple with obsolete and inadequate medical equipment negatively impacting service delivery to the hundreds of patients that throng the facility. During a tour to these facilities, the administrator of the Ghana Medical Trust Fund reiterated the government's efforts to complete stalled hospital projects in the region and equipping health facilities with adequate medical tools. There's more in this report.
The Ghana Medical Trust Fund has begun a nationwide initiative to provide essential medical equipment to hospitals in Ghana with its latest visit to the Ashanti region. Administrator of the fund, Obobia Dako Opoku, paid a working visit to the Kokode-Nwamase Teaching Hospital and the Kumasi South Hospital. It is part of a nationwide assessment tour aimed at soliciting the concerns of health professionals and identifying pressing equipment deficit. At CATH, the medical director of CATH, Dr. Sabin, noted that despite handling referrals from other regions, the facility is severely under-equipped.
The maintenance of the equipment is really huge on us. We've not had a mammogram. Ours broke down, and since then, we've not had. And then fluoroscopy too, we don't have as of now. And then there are other areas where recently it was in the news when we lost one of our doctors, a cath lab. We don't have now.
At Kumasi South Hospital, the administrator was briefed on similar challenges, particularly the lack of space and equipment for effective healthcare delivery. Medical doctor of Kumasi South Hospital, Dr. Bashiru Abdul Majid, appealed for the completion of the long-abandoned Sewia Regional Hospital project, situated a few kilometers away from the hospital.
As a regional hospital, you know, this place was a health center that was upgraded to a regional hospital, and so space is a major challenge in this hospital. Though some structures have been added over the years to solve the problem, but it's still a big challenge. We have a lot of people, specialists, who do not have space to work. That's why there was a need to build a new hospital, and after the hospital is commissioned, it's still sitting there. We are not able to use it. We are looking up to government to try and solve the problem as quickly as possible. If you go there, it's an eyesore.
Mrs. Obobia assured both hospitals of the Trust Fund's commitment to addressing these concerns, emphasizing that the fund is not only focused on providing equipment but also supporting patients' bill, training healthcare professionals, and promoting research.
And looking at the load that they have, people coming from the north, from the west, and all over, all of them come into the Kokode-Nwamase Teaching Hospital, and for them to have a facility that is virtually running on equipment that are outdated, so many years old, and clearly you look at it and you know that they really need the help, and it's important that corporate Ghana, government, all of us head there to give them the kind of support that they need to do their work. So there are four major things that we are doing. Basically, we are coming in to help with the patients, bills and all. We're also looking at equipment. We're also looking at training of nurses, doctors, specialist training, and also for the research for their work. And those are the four major components in our LI that we will pay particular attention to.
She added that the completion of the Sewia Hospital remains a priority, as it will ease congestion and ensure that facilities in the Ashanti region function at full capacity. Reporting for JoyNews, Josephine Sego.
The head of supervision at the Credit Union Association, Stella Tasamaunyo, has challenged women to embrace a savings culture, emphasizing that financial discipline is vital to securing their future and supporting their families. Speaking at a Women and Youth Dialogue organized by the UCC Cooperative Credit Union Limited, she advised women to reduce over-reliance on their husbands and rather see savings as a practical pathway to building stronger homes and ensuring long-term stability. Abigail Esel Nkrumah has more.
The Women and Youth Dialogue, organized by the Women's Wing of the University of Cape Coast Cooperative Credit Union Limited, was on a theme, empowering women and youth, strengthening cooperatives and driving inclusive growth. The dialogue, which is the first of its kind, constituted discussions across leadership, entrepreneurship, and financial literacy. Following the event, the chairperson of the UCC Cooperative Credit Union, Charity Abraham, highlighted the significance of having the dialogue.
So basically, you want to create a leadership pathways for women and youth to be able to thrive and then have the needed confidence to take up challenges to become better leaders in future. Again, we are looking at the entrepreneurial aspect. Most of our youth complete school, and then the next thing we are looking for is government work, white-collar jobs, and all of that. So credit union is taking it up to build their skills, to have the entrepreneurial mindset so that they wouldn't depend wholly or solely on government work. They'll be able to do their own things to get money and then being able to save with us. So this is what motivated it.
The head of supervision at the Credit Union Association Limited, Stella Tasa-Maunyo, encouraged women to practice the habits of saving.
We believe women have skill sets such as empathy, which will help when they come on board to lead. So basically, this is what we are doing. For loans, it's accessible for all members. Once you are a member and you save continuously, you have access for loans. But our advice to women is for them to save regularly for the future. They should not rely 100% on their husbands. They should save for the future. Today, their kids might be young, but in future, they are going to grow. And so they need to save more so that when their kids are the universities, they can support their husbands to see the kids through the university. So this is a plea to the women. Enough of the clothes, enough of the shoes, enough of the makeups. We have to save for the future.
Nase Awo Kwansima Ochuwa III is the Queen Mother of Ekumfi Ekoti and Onaibusi of Winneba, Assistant Registrar to UCC and an entrepreneur. She shared some advice with women entrepreneurs, reiterating the importance of saving.
I encourage women, my fellow women, that once we get a small capital and start doing something, we have to learn to save. Very important. Keep records of what we invested in, what is coming out, save some, possibly invest some, and then at the end of the day, let's take advantage of the facilities credit unions offer and use those facilities to expand our businesses, not to use the facilities to buy funeral cloth and wedding fabrics and all of that, but to reinvest in our businesses, to expand the businesses so that we would also be comfortable in our lives.
From Cape Coast, Abigail Lisol Nkrumah reports for JoyNews.
The Catholic Bishop of Gaza Diocese, Most Reverend Peter Kweku Itiamene, has called on members of the clergy to remain content with what they have in their pastoral calling. Speaking at the ordination mass of 3 young men into the Catholic priesthood at Kenyase in the Ahafo region, he urged priests not to let wealth creation take center stage in their pastoral mission, but rather to focus on love for mankind. Our Ahafo regional correspondent, Emmanuel Edujemfi, has more.
Salary. We live for the church, and therefore it's the members that take care of us. And most of the time, we see many poor and simple people bring in the little they have to just keep us going. Therefore, I'm asking the priests and all of us to appreciate the little that they have. They must not impose, they must not choose and select. Take whatever they have.
Most Reverend Kokode-Nwamase also admonished priests to serve in humility and love and not to lord over their congregations.
Try not to let their love for you make you superior over them or lord it over them. Humble yourselves and you enjoy it. The priesthood is also joyful because you have so many people who are looking up to you, and they come to you and they give you what they want. So I'm asking the priests that wherever they are placed, they must be content with whatever they have.
The Catholic Bishop of Gaza Diocese stressed the need for persons who aspire to be in the priesthood to have full conviction of God's calling and not to cut corners.
It's a calling. If you are not called, don't push yourself into it. That is why in these days I think we have so many people calling themselves as priests. There's no monitoring. Nobody knows what kind of formation they have. And therefore, they must not cut corners and just don't let monetary considerations or anything take center stage in their lives.
Reverend Father Samson Bedu, one of the newly ordained priests, on behalf of his colleagues, pledged to use their gifts and talent in their pastoral mission to serve humanity faithfully.
that the bishop has given to us and the church has provided for us, we must cherish it. So we are not coming to fight for wealth, but we are coming to give hope to the people of God. So we promise that we will not come and do certain things that goes contrary to the teachings of the church. So we promise that whatever we have, the talent the Lord has given to us, and the gift that He has given to us, we will put it into a good use.
From Kenya, in the Ahafo region for JoyNews, Emmanuel Edujemfi.
Away from that, President John Dramani Mahama has called for a reset of the global financial architecture, urging the world leaders to prioritize fairness. Speaking at the United Nations General Assembly in New York, he argued that the current system is skewed against African nations and undermines their development prospects.
30 years later, we African leaders are still making the same simple request for a permanent seat on the Security Council with the power of a veto. So today, Madam President, I stand here in this exact spot and ask the world, if not now, then when? We demand not only a reform of the Security Council, but also a reset of the global financial architecture, which is currently rigged against Africa. Africa must have a greater say in the world's multilateral financial institutions. And while I'm making requests, I'd like to call for the removal of the blockade on Cuba. As Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, our nation's founder, famously said, we seek to be friends with all and enemies to none. The Cuban people shed their blood on African soil in the fight against apartheid. And indeed, Cuba has been and continues to be a faithful friend of Africa. You see, the very fact that I can stand here and ask these things and say these things, and the fact that all nations can ostensibly gather here to address critical global issues, air our grievances, and express our concerns, that is what makes the survival of this organization so important. In every old city or village, you will find a town square, or a courtyard, or a plaza that once served as a gathering space for the citizens of the community and their leaders. Meetings and celebrations were held there, as were trials and elections. And these were spaces that brought people together and held them together as a community. Sadly, time and technology have eroded these spaces. Madam President, in many ways, the United Nations is the proverbial town square of our modern global village.
The Ghana Boxing Authority says it will introduce medical support for boxers after their bout following the sudden passing of Ernest Akushe, popularly known as Buhabali. The boxer died just 11 days after his super middleweight contest with Jacob Dixon at the Bukom Boxing Arena. We'll have a lot of that coming up in sport. But let's take what's happening on the commodities market.